Hi. I wanted to talk to you about death, about what scripture says about it. Because I've seen some videos where people put out where they're tortured and shredded to pieces and eaten and just some really terrible things. And I don't read that about the Father in His Word. There is punishment. Yes, you're right. The wages of sin is death. So that's just the punishment. That's the law. If you kill someone, that family of the person that you killed has the right to kill you, blood for blood. It's the law. There are things that the Father told us back in the beginning. He gave it to Moshe, to give to the children on how to keep his commands, what to do, when to do them. He says, if you don't do the things I tell you to do, I'm going to remove you from among your people, right? The wages of sin is death. So keep that in mind. But a lot of people, their scriptures say Hades. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but Hades is the Greek god, right? That everybody believes in. But the true word of Hades means a slope, a descent of a hill. And in mining, it means the vein from a vertical position into the ground. So that's what Hades means. But my scriptures say that death and Sheol, the grave, are thrown into the lake of fire, plus those who don't know the Father, right? Ezekiel 1, Revelation 1 shows you that the fire is the Father. That's where he puts his enemies at his feet. And John in Revelations 21, I believe, or anyway, it says that he sees the dead standing before the throne, the Most High, right? All the dead. So the sea gives up their dead, heaven gives up their dead, the earth gives up their dead, and we all stand before him, except for those who believe and have kept his commands. They're not going to have to stand before him because the Messiah, right, died for their sins, but he also died for the sins of everyone. He died for sinners, period, right? He even says in New Testament, the New Covenant, that those who needed a physician, he didn't come for those who needed a physician, a healer. He came for those who needed him, the sinners. So, read Matthew 5, the Beatitudes. Blessed is he who mourns, for he shall see the face of the Most High. Read those things because, there's a lot of people that Satan keeps in bondage. Those who can't stop drinking or doing drugs, they're constantly living in the pain and suffering that they endured as a child. They can't live with some things that they've done. Those are the ones who are oppressed by Satan. Those are the ones who just can't turn their life around. And then they call on a name that's not even, Jesus is, hey, Zeus. You're calling on Zeus. You're conjuring Zeus. Death, that's the reason why people are dying, because he says we don't know his name. And it says that the word, all throughout it, it's for those who know his name, call on his name, fear his name. So you need to research his name. And so, death, some people are saying some things about it, because in scripture it says that when you die, you're gathered into your people. We know that because when my mom was passing, she was calling out to people, oh, who's this? She kept saying there were bubbles. And so, when someone's dying, you research the things that they go through, and that's one of them. So scripture, that's proof that you're gathered to your people and you rest with your fathers in the grave. You're in the grave. Now, there is a story about a king who comes to settle his debts, and he takes everyone that owes him money, and this one is begging and pleading with him, please give me more time, I promise I'll pay. And the king had great compassion on him and forgave all his debt. And that servant went out walking through town, sees someone who owes him money, and he shakes him down, has him thrown in jail, won't show him any mercy at all. And the king finds out, and he takes that servant and casts him into outer darkness. Now, outer darkness is not hell. It's a place where you lament and you mourn. Matter of fact, you should read Psalms 36, 37, and 38, and it'll tell you, he's a compassionate, long-suffering, loving, lovingly committed one to even those who aren't following him. You know, most of you probably already know the story about the scapegoat. In Enoch, it says that all sin is assigned to Satan, and it is. There's a story in Leviticus 16 where the goat for the lot that fell for Zazel is to stand alive before the Most High forever until, and it's, so the people would lay their hands on the head of a goat and send it out into the wilderness, and it was a scapegoat for sin. And so that goat bore the sins of Israel and those who laid their hands on it. Well, if this goat is sent out into the wilderness, Leviticus 16 says, this goat stands alive before Yahuwah and is sent out into the wilderness to Azazel to atone for sin. I think even Azazel's going to be saved in the last, when all is said and done. Because, what is cast into the fire? Death and the grave. The second death is fire and sulfur. And that's in Revelations 21:8. Death, the second death is fire and sulfur. Right? And then if death and the grave are thrown into it's burned up. And yeah, there are scriptures where it says that those who are cast in the fire, the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. Well, you should research torment. It's going to be a torment. I went to jail one time, and it was devastating. And I just mourned for, and the Father humbled me and showed me a lot of things that, I had to go through, and it was very scary. And I tortured myself with everything that happened. And, that's what it's going to be like when you realize that the Father and His Son are real, and that everything that you rejected in your life, your flesh is warred with the Spirit, right? He's going to destroy your flesh. That is the second death. He's going to destroy the flesh that wars with His Spirit. And then you'll be clean, purified to stand in His presence. Because every knee, let's see, in Romans 14:11 and Philippians 2:10, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that He is our mighty one, that He's the creator, that His Son gives life to those who believe in Him, but also those who are sinners. He died for sinners, right? So, you're going to treat people different, I think. I mean, I know I do. But death is, so remember the story how Judas, he betrayed Messiah. Immediately, when he realized that the Messiah was who he said he was, he went to the priest, he confessed his sin, and then the priest said, well, what is that to us? You see to it yourself. He went and hung himself. He paid his debt. The wages of sin is death. And in 1 Corinthians 3, it says that everyone's works are going to be tested by fire. And if your works are burned up, you yourself are saved. And in 1 Corinthians 5, it says to hand the sinner over to Satan so he can destroy the flesh, yet save the soul, right? And Satan, when he tested, the sons of Elohim came and presented themselves to the Father, and Satan was there with him. Think about that. The sons came to present themselves. So Satan, he's, Yahuwah asked him, so what have you been doing? He says, oh, I've been going in and out of the earth doing this and that. He goes, well, have you considered my servant Eob? And Satan says, well, no, because you have a hedge of protection around him. So Yahuwah, or Satan says, you stretch out your hand against him and see if he doesn't curse you to your face. And so Yahuwah put out his hand against Job, not Satan, Job, or the father. He stretched out his hand against him. He allowed Satan to do what he had to do. So then he gets mad at Satan. He says, I told you he was a righteous man, but you incited me against him. And Satan goes, well, strike his bone and flesh and see if he doesn't curse you. And Job made it through. He had sores all over his body, and he scraped it with pot shards, and he was in the pit. But when he stood in the presence of the Most High, and they talked back and forth, he felt so dirty. And it even said that the town people gathered together with him to mourn all that the Father did to him. So, and another story is King David. So King David had a son, Absalom, right? Absalom tried to steal the kingdom from him, but King David also had a son named Amnon, who asked King David to please send in their sister because he was feeling ill. Please send her in to lift my spirits. Well, he rapes his sister. And anyway, when Absalom found out, he killed Amnon. He plotted against him and killed him, and he became an outcast. Right? Well, the wages of sin is death. Yahuwah's command was to get rid of the sin from among you, so he did that. And anyway, he became an outcast. So Joab, Absalom, so Joab knew the king's heart towards his son Absalom and that he loved him. And he sent a woman from Tekoa, and he said, please pretend that you're mourning a death for a very long time and go talk to the king about this. So she tells the king that she's a widow and that she had 2 sons that got in a fight, and one of them killed the other. And now the clan, the tribes, want her other son to pay for his sin of killing his brother. And the king says, well, if anybody comes up against you, you send him to me and I will confirm that your son has been cleared or, shouldn't be killed. So anyway, she finally says, well, my king, the person I'm referring to is you. She says in 2 Samuel 14, for we shall all become like water spilled on the ground, which is not gathered up again. Yet Elohim does not take away a life, but shall devise ways so that his outcast ones are not cast out from him. So when you die, and if you haven't followed him, and you've refused, and you've did it your way, and you're bitter, and you're just a hard person to be around, the day that you stand before him, you're going to give an account for all your works. And see, even evil people know how to do good work. So, we don't know what you're going to stand before the Father for, except that you are going to have a life review. I've watched enough near-death experiences to know that. But some people, like I had a dream once. It was the scariest thing. I can still see it today. So I'm with my son. It's like a vacation because we have a boat. I don't have a boat. But the boat, somebody stole the boat. And then we're looking for the boat, and all of a sudden I can't see Mitchell anymore. And then the next thing I know, I'm in total darkness, and the only light I see, I run to it. And when I go in, it's a room full of, you can tell they're fighters. They're at war because they have all their guns, and they're just scary looking. And I see pizza on the counter, and I go to get a bite, and they grab me by my hair and take me outside, and yeah. I was screaming at the top of my lungs in the hospital. It took a long time to settle me down. And it was really real. And I believe that people who have those types of dreams, the Father is showing you that yes, you're going to be cast into darkness. There's a place of darkness. I don't know how long the punishment is, but even the ones, the fallen messengers, they are only punished for 10,000 years. You read it, it's in the book of Enoch, like the first 14 chapters. It tells you the fall of the angels, and it tells you, it tells you a lot. It connects scripture that you hear all the time. But death it's serious to him. He puts to death and he makes alive. Read Deuteronomy 32. He uses everyone to do his will. Everyone. And, once you pay your debt, which is death, right? You stand before him for your works. And what are your works? Did you work out your salvation with fear and trembling? Did you keep his commands? Did you keep the Sabbath? Because he says if you don't keep the Sabbath, he's going to remove you from among your people. If you don't keep his festivals, you're out of here. He says to do it. He gives you the commands. The first 5 books, you should read it like 3 times each. The first 5 books is what he gave to Moshe. And then, the rest of Scripture is it's like these stories help you to deal with your life. He gives you, what he does to people who are disobedient, like the man who reached out to study the ark when King David was bringing it back to Israel. They stumbled, and a man reached out and touched it to help steady it. He died immediately because he wasn't a Levite. Only a certain tribe of the Levite could carry those articles of the temple. He was very specific. And there was one man picking up sticks on the Sabbath, and he was turned in. And when Moshe and Aaron asked him, what should we do? He says, the people that saw him and turned him in, have them stone him, and then all of the clans would follow suit. They had to kill him so they would remember how the Sabbath is to be set apart. It's a holy day that you spend with your Father, not in the presence of other people. Don't spend the Sabbath visiting a church. Don't let someone teach you the word. The Spirit dwells in you and teaches you all things. You don't need anyone to teach you. The reason why I'm talking about death is because I went through it. And he did a lot of studies with me on my sin, and so I wrote a book, but I can't sell it, so I'm giving the chapters away, and the one that I'm talking about now is the restoration of all things. Yeah, you're gonna die. Everybody dies, but what comes next is, purification. He's the potter, we're the clay. We are earthen vessels. He gave life to us because he chose us to live on this earth. And like any good father, he's not going to kill this child over that child. He has to follow his laws. The wages of sin is death. Messiah died for sin, for everyone. There's a restoration of all people. So there's a book called Creation's Jubilee by Dr. Stephen Jones. They use the pagan names, but you know what? When I read that, I got probably halfway, and I'm like, yeah, that's totally what I've thought all this time. And so he confirms that there will be a Jubilee, right? At 49 years, all people return to their inheritance. Right? We've all have an inheritance, especially, so, the story of the talents, the one who had 5 gained 10, he was in charge of 10 kingdoms. So we know that there's going to be a reward to those who follow him, and they're going to rule over kingdoms. Well, Satan is a servant. He was a priest. Ezekiel 28, you should read it. And then Exodus 28 is Aaron's breastplate. It has 12 stones. Satan only has 9. I think it's the sons of Adam. I think that the reason why Satan had 9 stones was because of Eve's offspring, right? Their seed would always be at war with another. So, and that's been till the day we die. It's going to be that way. Sorry. That's the curse for what we did. And women are the downfall of all men. Every scripture and every story, it's the woman's fault. And you women need to get it together. You need to fall on your face. You need to ask for forgiveness. You need to change your ways. You need to ask the Father what your end is, because we're wicked. We're a wicked people. And that's the curse. So, and it's sad because men are created in the image of the Most High, and they're not being treated very well. And that's sad in itself, but, you know, Yahweh makes a way for everyone to be with him. Every knee, every tongue, means everyone. We're all going to stand before him. And, there are those who receive life right away, like the rich man and the poor man. Lazarus was taken to the bosom of Abraham, while the rich man who refused to help Lazarus, they both died on the same day, and he was taken to the grave where it was hot and where he realized he didn't live the life he should have. And as the messengers are talking to him, they're telling him, you had all this time. And he's like, well, go tell my brothers, please warn them. And he's like, we did. We sent prophets. We sent the Messiah, and we sent Moshe, but you didn't listen. And that's the same as today. You need to heed my warning. Death is coming. Fire. A great fire is coming on the earth. He keeps showing me. He won't let me stop seeing it. I can't tell you how important it is to know his name. Because once you know his name, you're forgiven. He says that you'll be his, and he'll protect you. Like the Church of Philadelphia, read it. Did you know that all the assemblies are in Turkey? Yeah. In Turkey, not Israel, in Turkey. And you should pay attention to the war going on over there, because this is the beginning. These are things that he says are happening. He told me there's one more plague coming, and that the time to enter our house is now. Bo, come in, go in. That's what he told me. And then the number for Bo in Hebrew is 635, and guess what that means in Gematria? Answers of Yah, answers of M, answers of the Most High. He gave me the answers that I asked for, which was, when is this stuff going to happen? I mean, are we going through this? What's the sign? So, I'm out of battery. I gotta go. Thanks. Talk to you next time.